Hey Natty fans, welcome to our very first episode of Centre Court, all thanks to Lapine Funerals, supporting women in sport for over 125 years. I'm Bianca Chatfield and I'll be joined each and every week by this girl next to me, Sharni Layton, former Aussie Diamond, but also, I don't know if you know, former Vixen, Thunderbird, Magpie and Swift, all-round overachiever, AFLW player as well. Welcome, Shans.
Thanks, B. It's good to be here. Wow, thanks for highlighting the amount that I moved around the country.
You sure did, but that's the good thing because now you know a lot about all the teams.
I know, and I'm here to share it with you.
All the news, everything that's happening, we're going to bring you that every single week. Let's take a look at some of the Suncorp Super Netball games that took place over the weekend. It was the first game back for everybody after a 4-week break at the World Cup, Shans.
It was indeed, and look, I thought they might be a little bit rusty, but they weren't too bad. Everyone got out there, but for me, the most impressive game was probably Magpies versus Giants.
Yep.
And fighting for that 4th spot, Giants just looked the better team on the day.
There were certainly some tired bodies out there, but we expected that and we knew it was going to be tough, and I think some of the top teams will be quite relieved that they got through.
Yeah, absolutely, and even just the players themselves. So I'm sure they'll have a little bit more rest before coming into this weekend because it's not just 1 week that you can rest them for after coming off such a huge World Cup for so many of the girls from so many countries.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at some of the results. And here, I think you already mentioned the standout game for you being the Magpies and the Giants. For me, I think the standout was the Fever taking on the Swifts. Swifts went all the way over to Perth, managed to steal a win off Fever, maintaining their incredible form that we see them sitting at the top of the ladder.
And isn't it amazing that I think we were all a little bit worried once Maddie Proud went down with that ACL. The captain of the team led them so much, but clearly that leadership goes full team deep.
Yeah, it does. So we're going to get stuck into each and every game and give you a detailed rundown and what we think happened. So I think the first game we need to get to is the Firebirds taking on the Lightning. When we take a look at this game, the Firebirds, they just had a really bad first quarter and then they nearly got to the Lightning in the end.
But it's just the difference between these teams. Sunshine Coast Lightning, clearly the #1 side in Queensland at the moment, but just the experience that these girls have. Laurie Sherian having won 2 premierships now, the likes of Laura Langman, Steph Wood. You wouldn't have even known that those two went to the World Cup, to be honest, the way they came out firing. But I was really impressed with the way that the Firebirds were able to fight back in that second quarter and really take it to the Lightning. And I think it's probably the closest that they've got to them in a while.
Yeah, and we just see there the South African lineup at the World Cup. Now, obviously back with the Sunshine Coast Lightning playing in the defence. And it was a tough for the Firebirds. They haven't had a win so far this season. They've had a draw against the Magpies, but no win. Can you see them getting a win this season?
Look, I really hope that they can. I think it might be one of those ones that, you know, if a team needs to get into the finals, that will be the one that they disrupt them in.
Oh, they're going to cause some trouble at the end of the season. We might see that. Cara Conan also was player of the match for that game. Let's take a look at our next one. The Vixens took on the Thunderbirds in Melbourne. Have a look at the stats here. The penalties, that's what really cost the Thunderbirds in the end. 74-50. They're just out of play, which meant they couldn't contest enough of that ball.
Yeah.
The big thing for me, though, we saw at the very start of the game, Maria Folau pulled out and the Thunderbirds grabbed Emma Ride from the ANL, Victorian Fury team. They grabbed her and they put her in their lineup and we saw her come on at quarter time.
And we haven't seen too much poaching from within player-to-player teams, but if you haven't signed on as a training partner, they're allowed to do that. And what a great opportunity for Emma Ride. She's someone that has been around for such a long time, and if you don't get that experience out on the court, you're not going to become a better player. So I really hope for her that she has the ability to stand up in a few more games because we need a future shooter for Australia.
Yeah, we do. And congratulations to Tegan Phillip now breaking my Vixens record. She's stolen it off me. She also got player of the match, so she did everything she could in that game. But I think the Vixens walk away from that a little relieved that they got through when, they had a lot of tired bodies out there.
Absolutely. But I'm also really thrilled for the Thunderbirds losing Layla Guskoff, their goal defence at the World Cup with an Achilles, and the change in their lineup. No, they're not winning a lot of games, but they're still staying with it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the progress with them, not only for the rest of this year, but in the years coming.
Well, that's 2 matches down so far. We've got 2 more to go, all thanks to Lapine Lapine Funerals. You are watching Centre Court. Let's go to Fever and Swifts. This game happened over in Perth, and again, it was a bit of a topsy-turvy match, and we saw for the first time the Swifts bring in Kayla Cullen, the former Silver Fern.
Well, if you're going to bring in anyone, she's not a bad one. She's so tenacious. She's able to just get the ball back, but this shooting circle is what's really highlighting it for me at the Swifts at the moment. Samantha Wallace, Helen Housby, probably one of the best goal attacks at the moment, but the Swifts went down by 3 in the first quarter and they fought back in that second quarter, which I think is a big change to a lot of the other teams that waited until the fourth quarter. And so they fought back to get up by 2 going into the second half, and that was huge for the New South Wales Swifts.
Yeah, it's been absolutely massive for them, and I think, you know, they are cementing themselves as the real deal. Like, they keep proving it. They've got a team formula that's working no matter who's going in to replace Maddie Proud.
And that's exactly what you need if you want to be able to win a premiership. So well done to you at the New South Wales Swifts.
The English girls have come back from the World Cup quite well, because Helen Housby, she had a great performance. She was player of the match for that game.
Yeah, firing everywhere.
She's hard to stop.
Yeah, well, that's why I retired.
Me too. I'm long gone.
Yeah.
Now let's take a look at the Magpies versus the Giants. This was a tussle for 4th position on the ladder, and it's the one that Giants had a very convincing win in the end. Even though it was only a 7-goal win, they seemed to just dominate the game.
They did. I don't think the end margin actually showed how much they did dominate during the game, with the Magpies coming out 22-11 in that fourth quarter. But what that highlights to me is just the inconsistency with what they're playing with at the moment. You can't afford, as I said before, to wait to the fourth quarter to be able to have a fight back. But the Giants showed they were in 5th going into this game, and they showed they mean business coming into this finals end, and they are not going to be a rollover. And Magpies are going to have to fight so hard now if they do want to make that top 4.
Yeah, it was the most impressive performance I've seen from the Giants all year. And again, the English shooters dominating, because Helen Housby, player of the match the last game we spoke about, and Jo Harton, player of the match for this game.
I know, I couldn't believe it. I have not seen Jo Harton in this good a form all year, to be honest with you, getting long bombs from absolutely anywhere. But I just have that feeling that she finally gets how Caitlin Bassett is playing, and now they have 2 goals to go to, and she's not just relying on Caitlin Bassett to shoot those from under the ring.
That is one dangerous formula. Let's take a look at the Suncorp Super Netball ladder as it stands at the moment. Swifts are sitting on top, very pretty. The Lightning and the Vixens, and then obviously the Giants are taking out that 4th spot. Magpies and Fever can still mathematically make it, but they've got to, I guess, pull their finger out, don't they, for the next couple of weeks?
Absolutely, and then with Thunderbirds and Firebirds down the bottom. But at the moment, they're not that too far away, Firebirds, from getting their first win and really being disruptive to any of those teams trying to make finals.
It's now time to set the agenda, all thanks to Lapine Funerals, supporting women in sport for over 125 years. We want to bring you the up-to-date news, and the one news story that has been standing out for us this week is Rob Wright and Kelsey Brown, and the conversation we were able to capture during the commentary. Let's take a listen to what happened.
You wanting to have a look, but then I reckon then you're making one just longly. I reckon shorten up, change direction, get yourself into the play. Because I reckon you get her on change direction.
What am I doing well? I just feel like I'm getting lots of I just need some positive.
Well, how about doing some?
Okay.
Do you know,
okay.
rather, because to me at the moment you're not.
Okay.
So I can't give you a positive when you're not doing it. All right? All right?
None. So it just means
Well, a bit less attitude, I reckon, from you. It's not, I don't need it. All right? How about let's just do your role.
When you take it, separation and closer to the rim.
She was after some positives. You wanted to be quite tough with her. Can you talk us through the conversation you had on the bench after?
Oh, look, probably don't want to go into that too much. Look, probably a little bit hard for me. I probably needed to be a little bit more positive. At the end of the day, like, she's come back from a tough tournament, so I probably needed to be a little bit kinder. So, bad on my behalf.
Whoa. I loved getting this insight. Firstly, I think thanks, Rob Wright, for letting me interview him straight after that happened. What are your thoughts? Was it right or wrong by the coach to say that?
I don't think it was right nor wrong. I think at the end of the day, that is just how a coaching conversation goes. I've been coached by Rob Wright, and he gives you straight feedback, which is what you need. You heard him say, you're going long, you're out of the play. I need you to do short, sharp drives to get yourself back into the play. If you're not in the play as a wing attack, you're not doing your job. And so I think for Kelsey, she said, I need these positives, which is fair enough. But at the same time, if you do what the coach asks of you, you will get those positives, and that's when you get the positive feedback. And I think everyone in everyday life, you don't get this harsh feedback. But for me, that was not a grilling.
We've had worse.
We've had worse. I've definitely had worse, and not from Rob, from other coaches. And I see that as direct feedback, which is what I like to get so that I know what to do when I go out on court. So I think people who hear that and they're a little bit shocked, it's because you don't have these conversations in everyday life. But this is high performance sport and you don't have a lot of time, and what he was needing from her is what he asked her to do, and so that's why he was reiterating that.
Yeah.
I do agree it might have been a little bit harsh because Kelsey might have been a little bit emotional post the World Cup, but by saying that and giving the direct feedback, it shocks a player into what they need to do, because we are...
And it worked. She had a better second half.
She did. She had 11 feeds in the first half compared to her 18 in the second, and then that 22 goals she had a huge part of in that fourth quarter. And to be honest, there was no issue there with Rob or Kelsey. They chatted after the game. It was fine. So it's just everyone else watching what happens in everyday sport.
Well, we need to move on to another agenda item that I know you're passionate about, all thanks to Lapine Funerals. What's on the agenda now is the player welfare and how it should also be at the forefront of everyone's minds. It is, but should it be more? Let's take a listen to how Jiva Mentor was during the game, for her game against the Giants, and how she was feeling. And how's your own body feeling after a tough 4 weeks?
Body feels good. It's more the mind. I feel like I'm a little bit drunk out there, a little bit hazy. So I think it's just important I snap out of it for the team.
Good luck for the second half. We knew the girls were going to struggle in some ways. It was really honest by Jiva to say mentally she was just not quite right. You wrote an article on it. You're very passionate about this. What are your thoughts?
I'm quite furious. I just think that Netball Australia and or Super Netball just need to take a stand in looking after their players. I got back from Liverpool and I was absolutely knackered. I'm as crook as a dog. And you can see here even Janelle Fowler at the end of her game as well. She was absolutely knackered. She looked up at the scoreboard at the end of this goal and she was like, can you just get me off the court now? And what I'm most worried about is the injuries that come from... the injuries that come from being tired.
And if we take a look at this, Chelsea Pittman wrote something on Instagram which I thought was great. Her talking about, we knew it was going to happen, we knew we had this time and it was going to be tough. We just probably didn't realise how tough, and you just got to bunker down and surround yourself with enough support at the moment to be able to get through.
But it just shouldn't happen in the first place. If there is a fixture that comes out, then the Players Association needs to jump on that and say 3 days break. I don't think so, because this is like quite genuinely mental health issues. People can get depression because they're not mentally dealing with what they went through at a World Cup that is going to bite them in the butt, not now, maybe not even 6 months' time, but maybe in a year's time. And that is why this is so serious, Bianca.
Yeah, very passionate, and I love your views, and you've had to deal with it yourself. So you're coming from a place of experience, and I think we need to make sure that we do concentrate on that in the future. Now it's time for you to do a bit more talking, and we're going to The Analyzer. All thanks to Lexus of Berwick. Experience amazing with us. It's your turn to now experience amazing with the great Sharni Layton.
And I love analysing. It's one of the things that I do best. So with the tall shooters at the moment, over the last decade, they have dominated netball and Suncorp Super Netball at the moment, and I would know coming against Romelda Aiken for years after years after years. So what the thing is now is that we've actually learned how to defend against it finally, because they were so strong, and this is why. If we look at the screen here, as soon as a mid-quarter gets on the circle edge right here and the ball can go up to the shooter, there's nothing you can do to stop it. If I'm 10 centimetres like smaller than an Emma Ride, I can't get that intercept against her. There is no way that I'm going to be able to get that ball. But what I'm loving seeing in Super Netball at the moment is that we've learnt how to defend against it, and we're seeing the shorter, sharper players come into play. But this is how you defend it. If we pause it here, this is what we've learnt against the tall shooters. You need to make sure you're getting really high hands up like Kate Maloney is at the top of the third here. Over in the far corner of the plasma, you'll see that the other players have worked hard beforehand to keep their players wide so that they're not an option. And then underneath the ring here, Dehaney's in front of her player so that she can come around and get that intercept. And she's allowed to do that because the high hands has forced that ball high and time to come around. So if we play it through here, up she goes and gets the intercept. We'd all love to see that, a defensive intercept here. Now another one again. So yes, still close to circle edge, but far enough off that she can still, Renee Inglesey can still get her hands up. We've got Jo Weston here pushing her attacker into the play so that she's not an option. As you can see, up wide as well. And then Dehaney still in front as we play it on. The ball goes, maybe not an intercept, but still out of court to be able to play it forward. So I'm loving that we have adjusted. But not only that, teams have started going back to their two shorter, or it doesn't have to be shorter, but two moving shooters, which is so good. And they're just as important now as a tall shooter. So we're coming in here, as you can see, we've got Caitlin Thwaite rolling off, coming out of the circle, opening up the space for Tegan Phillip, and then swings over to the other side. What this does is it confuses the defenders because they can't just stand still on one tall shooter. They're getting separated, they're mixing it up, and then that made it easier for Caitlin Thwaite to get it under the ring. Now looking at here at the Lightning, who are also on the top of the ladder at the moment, which is phenomenal. Laura Langman moving around, Laurie Sherian out, Cara Conan underneath, but it was all the work that Steph Wood was doing outside. Cara Conan came out to get herself back into the circle, and it's that movement that defenders are really struggling with now because they're so used to standing up against that tall shooter.
And that's very hard for a tall defender, is to play on a moving shooter.
Oh, it's so difficult.
Thanks for that. That was all thanks to Lexus of Berwick. Experience amazing with our unique one-touch purchase. Go to lexusofberwick.com.au. All right, it's my turn. It's time for the nitty-gritty. And what I wanted to focus on is, there's a lot of shooter talk at the moment. I want to get your thoughts on it because we know shooters want to aim for over 85% accuracy every single game, and I think that is really good. And if they can get 90%, awesome. If they get 100%, amazing.
Yeah.
However, it's too much of a focus for our shooting end. Yes, we want them to shoot accurately, but when shooters walk off the court and they say, I've shot 90%, I've done my job, you actually haven't. There's so much more to being a shooter than just putting it through the ring. We need to make sure that all of our shooters are accountable for the things that they need to do, moving the ball around that circle, being available for the mid-quarters when they're ready to feed it in. I want shooters to be more accountable. I want us to make it and not focus so much on those shooting stats. Do you agree, or am I just making this up?
I completely agree, Bianca, because at the end of the day, you might have 85, 90%, 100%, but did you score enough goals for the game to get your team the win? If you lost and had a really high goaling percentage, you might walk off feeling great, but that's not okay. It's about the team effort, and netball is the best team game in the world, I think, the way that you need to play it around. And my favourite goaler at the moment is Helen Housby, and an example is she shot at 78% on the weekend, B, and I think, maybe not amazing, but then she had some ridiculous amount. She had 17 goal assists, and then she had 21 feeds, and so it's her all-round numbers of how she's contributing to the team and not just her goaling percentage. And the Swifts still won and she's still got player of the match. So for me, goalers, if you're out there at a younger level, percentage is important because defenders get angry.
Yeah, keep practicing those goals. But you need to do a lot of other stuff out there on the court too, just to make it easier to get the ball into the ring.
Yes, great nitty-gritty.
All right, it's now time for our segment, Coach Says. So, Sharni, every single week we're going to finish the show with, if I was a coach, I would.
Yes.
If you're a coach, what would you do?
Well, if I was a coach and if I was Rob Wright as this certain coach, if I was a coach, I would be starting Gabby Sinclair this weekend. And I know that's a huge call to bench Nat Medhurst, but at the end of the day, she scored 5 from 7 on the weekend. And when Gabby was on, they scored 22 goals for the quarter and she scored 11 from 15. She's young, she's a rookie. They need to develop her. We need these younger players coming through. So if I was a coach, I would start Gabby Sinclair.
Nice work. And if I was a coach, I would keep bringing in those imports we've seen. And I know that's controversial because I know the Diamonds are probably wanting less imports. But for me, I love it. And we've just seen Katrine Rore sign up for the New South Wales Swifts, replacing Kate Eddy. Another Silver Fern is coming into Suncorp Super Netball, and I think it's fantastic. It makes it exciting, and I want to watch it more.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm loving seeing the Ferns come back over the ditch. I've really missed them since we used to play against them, and so seeing them come over and being a part of our competition, we want to be the best netball competition in the world, and bringing them over creates that.
Okay, let's take a look quickly at the matches that are to come this weekend. What's the standout for you, Sharni?
So my standout this weekend is definitely the Lightning versus the Swifts. We've got 2 top-of-the-table games, but I still think that the Swifts can do it, especially because they're bringing Rory over from New Zealand.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be really tough.
Yeah, well, I look forward to joining you next week to recap everything that happens on the weekend. Centre Court is brought to you by Lapine Funerals, supporting women in sport for over 125 years. Sharni, it's been awesome fun. Thank you so much, and I look forward to bringing you all the news and updates next week.